You've been working for 30, maybe even 30 years. You've saved diligently, built up your Trudovanke, paid down your house, and now you're all looking at retirement in the next 5 years thinking, I made it. But here's what most people don't realize. The 5 years before retirement are the most dangerous financial years of your life. During this period, one bad decision can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And unlike earlier in your career, you don't have time to recover. I am 94 years old and I've lived through 13 recessions. I watched the markets crash in 1987, again in 2000, again in 2008, and once more in 2020. I've seen people retire at exactly the right moment and live comfortably for 30 years. And I've seen others retire at the wrong time and be forced back into the workforce at age 70 because their money ran out. The difference between those outcomes, one's that T. Luckett was planning. Financial planners call the last 5 years before retirement the red zone because this is when your margin for error disappears. Earlier in life, if you made a mistake or markets dropped, you could work longer or wait for recovery. But in the red zone, you don't have another decade to fix things. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom worked for the same company for 28 years. He saved consistently and by age 62 had around high in a line and is trading a line. He planned to retire at 65 and felt confident about his future. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit. In just 9 months, his portfolio dropped to about 40,000. Watching half his life savings vanish terrified him, so he panicked and sold everything, moving his money to cash. The market recovered, but Tom missed the rebound because he stayed out too long. He ended up working until age 70 to rebuild his savings and finally retired with about $600 instead of the $1 million or more he might have had if he had stayed invested. Stories like Tom S. are common, and they highlight the biggest truth about retirement at this stage. Protecting your money matters more than growing it. When you are 40, you can take risks because you have time to recover from losses. But when you are 63 and planning to retire at 65, a large market drop can permanently reduce your income for the rest of your life. There is also something called sequence of returns risk, which means the order in which market returns happen matters just as much as the returns themselves. If you retire and the market falls in your first year, you are forced to withdraw money from a shrinking portfolio, locking in losses that can never be recovered. That's why the final years before retirement require careful planning, disciplined decisions, and a shift in mindset from growth to preservation. The biggest mistake people make in the red zone is keeping too much of their money in stocks. For most of your working life, you were told to invest aggressively, stay in equities, and ride out market swings. That advice is generally correct when you are young because time is on your side. But retirement is not about maximizing returns. It's about protecting what you've already built. Imagine losing 40% of your portfolio at age 40. It's painful, but you still have 5 years of earning and investing ahead of you to recover. Now imagine losing 40% at age 63, just 2 years before retirement. That loss can delay your retirement by years or permanently reduce your lifestyle. This becomes even more dangerous because of sequence of returns risk. Let us say you retire with $1 million and plan to withdraw $50,000 per year to live on. If the market drops 20% in your first year of retirement and then recovers over the next 2 years, your portfolio still suffers long-term damage because you were forced to sell investments while they were down to fund your living expenses. Those shares are gone forever and can't benefit from the recovery. Studies show that this kind of early downturn can cause you to run out of money 7 or more years earlier than expected, even if the average return over time is the same. That is why your asset allocation needs to change as you approach retirement. A simple rule of thumb is to take the number of years until retirement and multiply by 10. That is the maximum percentage of your portfolio that should be in stocks. If you're 5 years away, that means no more than 50% in equities. If you are 3 years away, around 30% is safer. The rest should be in bonds, bond funds, or high-yield savings accounts. Yes, these investments may offer lower returns, but at this stage, you are not trying to get rich. You are trying to avoid becoming poor. Over the next 30 days, review your current allocation. If more than 60% of your portfolio is in stocks and you are close to retirement, consider rebalancing by gradually selling equities and moving into safer assets. Many people hesitate to do this because they fear missing out on future market gains. But ask yourself this: would you rather miss some upside or risk losing a large portion of your savings at the exact moment you can least afford it? Another critical mistake people make as they approach retirement is not knowing how much they actually spend. Many soon-to-be retirees believe they live on around $4,000 a month, but when they track their expenses carefully, they discover the real number is closer to $6,000. That $2,000 monthly difference may not sound huge, but it adds up to $4,000 per year. Over a 30-year retirement, that is a 7-1 gap between expectation and reality. The only way to avoid this mistake is to track every dollar you spend for at least 3 months. Include everything: mortgage or rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, transportation, subscriptions, dining out, gifts, travel, hobbies, and unexpected expenses. After 3 months, calculate your average monthly spending and multiply it by 12 to estimate your annual expenses, then add at least a 20% buffer. Many people assume their expenses will drop in retirement, but in reality, they often rise. You will have more free time, which means more travel, more activities, and more discretionary spending. Healthcare and home maintenance costs also tend to increase as you age. Once you know your true annual expenses, you can compare that number to your expected retirement income. The average Social Security benefit as of 2095 is roughly $190 per month, or about $29 per year. If your annual expenses are $1,700, that means you need about $3,700 per year from your savings. Using the traditional 4% rule, you would need around $9.75 million saved to generate that income. However, because bond yields are lower today than in the past, many financial experts recommend using a safer withdrawal rate of 3 to 3.5%. That means a $1 million portfolio may safely generate only $20,000 to $25,000 per year. This difference can dramatically change your retirement timeline. If your savings fall short, you have only 3 realistic options: save more, reduce your expected spending, or delay retirement. One of the most expensive mistakes retirees make is claiming Social Security at the wrong age. You can begin collecting benefits as early as age 62, but doing so permanently reduces your monthly payment. For most people, full retirement age is 67. If you claim benefits at 62, your monthly check may be reduced by about 30%. On the other hand, if you delay claiming until age 70, your benefit increases by about 8% per year after full retirement age, resulting in a payment roughly 24% higher than at 67. For example, if your full retirement benefit is $2,000 per month, claiming at 62 would give you about $1,400 per month. Waiting until 70 would increase that to roughly $2,414 per month. That is a difference of more than $1,000 per month, or over $13,000 per year. Over a 25-year retirement, that adds up to more than $300 in additional income. Deciding when to claim should be based on your health, your financial situation, and your life expectancy. If you have serious health issues and don't expect to live past your mid-70s, claiming early may make sense. If you need the income to cover basic living expenses, you may not have a choice but to claim early. However, if you are healthy, have sufficient savings, and expect to live into your 80s or 90s, delaying Social Security is often one of the best financial decisions you can make. because it provides a guaranteed inflation-adjusted return that no other investment can match. This decision becomes even more important for married couples. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse receives the higher of the two Social Security benefits. If the higher-earning spouse delays claiming until 70, it maximizes the survivor benefit, providing greater financial security for the spouse who lives longer. Healthcare is one of the most underestimated expenses in retirement. Many people assume that once they reach age 65 and qualify for Medicare, their medical costs will be minimal. In reality, Medicare covers only a portion of expenses. If you retire before 65, you must pay for private health insurance, which can cost between $100 per month for a couple, depending on where you live. Over 3 years, that could total $30,000 or more. Even after enrolling in Medicare, you will still pay premiums for Part B, additional costs for prescription drug coverage, and out-of-pocket expenses for services not covered, such as dental and vision care. According to industry estimates, the average 65-year-old couple will spend more than $300 on health care during retirement. Long-term care presents an even larger financial risk. The cost of a private nursing home room can exceed $9,000 per month, and the average stay is around 3 years, potentially costing over $300. Without a plan for long-term care, these expenses can quickly deplete a lifetime of savings. Another overlooked issue is taxes. Many retirees accumulate most of their wealth in traditional 401ks and IRAs, which are tax-deferred accounts. While contributions reduce taxes during working years, withdrawals in retirement are taxed as ordinary income. Taking out $80 per year could result in $15,000 to $20,000 taxes, depending on your bracket. One strategy to reduce future tax burdens is to perform Roth conversions in the years leading up to retirement. This involves moving money from a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA, paying taxes on the converted amount now in exchange for tax-free withdrawals later. By carefully converting just enough each year to stay within a lower tax bracket, retirees can reduce required minimum distributions in their 70s and potentially lower both their tax bill and their Medicare premium. Even if you have savings, a budget, and a retirement date in mind, your plan is not complete until you test it against worst-case scenarios. Many people assume the future will look like the past, but retirement can last 25 or 30 years, and a lot can go wrong during that time. You should model what happens if the market drops 20% in your first year of retirement, if inflation rises to 5% instead of 3%, if you live to 95 instead of 85, or if you require long-term care. If your plan only works under perfect conditions, then it's not a real plan, it's a wish. That is why I recommend creating a 60-day action plan. First, calculate your exact net worth and list every account, investment, and asset you own. Second, track your spending for 3 months to understand your true expenses. Third, estimate your Social Security benefits and decide when you plan to claim them. Fourth, research health insurance options if you plan to retire before 65 and investigate long-term care coverage. Fifth, meet with a fee-only financial planner to discuss tax strategies such as Roth conversions. Sixth, review and rebalance your investment portfolio to ensure you're not taking excessive risk. Finally, stress test your retirement plan using online calculators or professional software to see how it performs under different economic scenarios. Completing these steps within the next 2 months will put you ahead of the vast majority of people approaching retirement. I've been investing for over 70 years, and the one principle that protected me more than any other was simple: never take a risk that could wipe you out. Plan for the worst while hoping for the best. Before you retire, sit down with your spouse, print your account statements, and have honest conversations about when you will stop working, how much you will spend, and what could go wrong. Successful retirements are not built on luck. They are built on preparation, discipline, and clear-eyed planning.